Hi there, my name is Ash and I like to draw. But do you know what else I like? Pokémon!
네가?
I mean, how can I not? Pokémon hit the scene in Europe when I was about 9 years old, and it just clicked with me instantly. Colorful, cute, and cool animals with wicked superpowers duking it out? Count me in! And yes, I still play Pokémon to this day. Even when the games aren't exactly fantastic, a large part of the appeal for me is just seeing what new creatures Game Freak comes up with. And as I've grown older, I've come to acknowledge and appreciate a lot of the creative decisions behind Pokémon designs, even in Pokémon I'm otherwise not the biggest fan of. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Well, that's because one particularly popular brand of art video is to try and design new Pokémon. That can either mean making up new Pokémon from scratch, coming up with new evolutions for pre-existing Pokémon, or switching their typing. Trust me, there are some truly amazing Fakemon designs out there by immensely talented artists, and I just can't wait to show myself off as not being anywhere near as clever, creative, or skilled as any of them. I wasn't supposed to say that last part out loud. Now, originally what I wanted to do was use a random number generator to pick 3 completely different Pokémon, and then use that same number generator to pick their new types. But with my first roll, I also had an idea for its evolution, and with my second roll, I kind of ended up having this idea for a divergent evolution path, so while I've only chosen 2 Pokémon families, I'm actually gonna be drawing 4 Pokémon. So, bonus Pokémon for you guys, I guess? But anyway, let's get drawing. Our first candidate is Chinchou, the water electric Pokémon. Okay, not the first Pokémon I would have chosen personally, but that's fine. And we're gonna change it to... Grass Ghost? Oh boy. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty stumped on this one for a while. But after giving it some thought, it finally clicked when I took a second look at those antennae with the glowing bulbs and realized they would be perfect to replace with wilted flowers. Going further with that idea, I then made Chinchou's body into more of a clump of dirt with a few leaves sticking out of it, kinda like a neglected houseplant. Hey, Trubbish, do you mind if I borrow your basic body shape for this?
Rubbish.
Thanks, Trubbish, you're a real pal. No, not that kind of forget it. Then I started thinking of what would cause a simple flower to gain this kind of spooky sentience. And well, in true Pokemon tradition, I came up with a hilariously spooky backstory for this little guy. When the flowers on a grave are left to wilt, the soul of the deceased may possess the soil, seeking out those who would water them and keep their memory alive. I also like to think that this explains why grass is strong against water, since this particular Pokemon will absorb water in order to sustain itself. So, you know what, let's just give it the ability water absorb for good measure. As for a name, let's just go with a simple spooky pun. Say hello to Grimcho. But hey, we're not done. Chinchou has an evolution in Lanturn, so let's see what we can do with that. So, looking at Lanturn and thinking of our reanimated flowers idea, my thoughts led to an actual spooky plant from real-world folklore. The Mandrake. Based on the vaguely human-shaped root of the hallucinogenic Mandragora plant, the Mandrake is said to be a person-shaped plant that screams when plucked out of its soil, killing all who hear it. And man, are we lucky! Lanturn already has the word Earn in its name, and that just goes wonderfully with a ghost type. Adapting Lanturn's dolphin-like shape, I'm gonna make it crawl around on less than developed arms and roots where the fins and tails should be, just for a bit of extra spook factor. Taking Grimchou's wilted flowers and turning them into big leaves then gives us the idea that this might be the part of the Mandrake you see above ground before you pull up the rest of the creature. And with just a bit of color, we suddenly have ourselves a proper Mandragora Pokemon. As for its description, having finally been properly watered, this Pokemon's thirst is still not quenched. It crawls around on its belly, seeking water wherever it can, crying out to those who refuse it. And as for the name, Planturn, for possibly growing inside a burial urn and, you know, plant. Hey, look, I never claimed to be clever about the names, alright? You try coming up with a Lanturn Mandrake pun. Next up, we have Spinda, the normal type dizzy teddy bear. I always like this little critter. What can I say? It's adorable. And we're gonna make it a psychic type. Well, that's certainly interesting. We're actually kind of in luck with this one. Spinda already has a lot of swirls in its base design meant to cartoonishly represent its dizziness. But what else can spirals represent again? Hypnosis! And would you look at that, it already learned Psybeam and Hypnosis. It's like it's begging to be a psychic type. So, taking that to its next extreme, we're just gonna keep the swirly eyes and ears. But we're gonna play around with the spots a little. Instead of entirely random splotches, let's actually make it a swirling spiral, kind of similar to Poliwhirl and Poliwrath, covering the legs, running over the tummy and across the arms to finally create a roly-poly little hypno bear. And maybe let's give it some spots around the eyes and one in the middle, you know, to represent the idea of the mystical third eye. Add a slightly more purplish color scheme based on other psychic types of note, and voila! Spinda has become Minda, combining mind and panda. Hey, it's not like Spinda is any more clever. And for description, well, I imagine this is a shy and skittish little bear, so... Using the swirly patterns on its body, Minda easily puts predators to sleep so it can run away to safety. If you think you've never seen a Minda in the wild, it's likely because they use their powers to make you forget you ever saw them. But see, once again, I'm not done, because while I was working on this Pokemon, I actually had a second idea. Why not make a fighting type Spinda? I've personally always liked to imagine Spinda as a drunken boxer type of fighter, using its wobbly movements as a way to get in some powerful hits. And I mean, the dang thing does learn teeter dance and sucker punch. Again, it's practically begging to be adapted to fighting type. So what if Spinda had a divergent evolution path depending on whether its attack or its special attack stat is the highest when it reaches a certain level? You know, kinda like how Eevee can evolve into different types depending on various factors. Well, let's see where this idea can take us. Starting with the pose, let's put our creature in a really classic drunken master pose. Which turns out to be a little hard with those knobby limbs, but we'll get there. Also, please watch Drunken Master with Jackie Chan if you can. That movie is amazing. From there, we once again play around with the spots. Let's put one across the bridge of his nose and his cheeks to simulate a drunken fluster, and then add a few lines around the wrists and the ankles to resemble martial arts bandages or sports tape. We're still keeping the spinny eyes and ears, those are key, but let's put the ears closer together and make a spot that separates it from the rest of the head, to make it look kind of like a ponytail or a top knot. Man, look at Spinda over here taking fashion tips from Miyamoto Usagi. Cock his head a little, give him a goofy, happy, drunken expression, and voila, we have ourselves a Jinda. You know, like gin, the alcoholic drink. That is, unless you're too young to know about alcohol. You know what, just forget I said anything. Feasting almost exclusively on fermented berries, Jinda fights with an unpredictable flurry of attacks. A proper Jinda den has never been found, as their wobbly walk disorients any who tries to follow it home. And that will be it for now. I like to think we got some pretty fun stuff out of these two Pokemon. But would you like to see more Pokemon type swaps in the future? Or maybe some completely different Pokemon related challenges? Then tell me about it in the comments below, give the video a like, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to see more art videos in the future. I'll be seeing you there, folks. Bye for now.